Welcome to Church House. Um, welcome. So he had messaged me, and he was just talking about maybe we should all get together and talk about the contents of this particular book. I want you guys to get the book, listen to the book, because it is very much a lot of the things that God has been saying to us, and that it gives a plan for the accomplishment of what He is saying. And as in when I was just getting into this whole thing, and He was taking me through the book of Moses, Exodus, one of the things that God was showing me was that it's not hard to take a city. It's not hard to take a city because Moses took an entire the nation of Israel. He took the city, he took the people of Israel, and took them out of Egypt and took them to another place. And where it started out as more than 600,000 or a million of them, really, it ended up to being more than that by the time that they got to the promised land, which of course Moses never made it to. But God was showing me, it's not hard to take a city. And as I heard that, hearing it is one thing, and walking it out is completely another thing. So I've kind of just put that thing on the shelf with some other things that He has said. Not to say I'm not doing it, but to say, you see it, but it's in the future. And then there's some other priorities you got to do first, like deal with your own city right here. So we've been doing that, and like I have said, and to be extra redundant, God has this awesome plan, and it just begins to keep unfolding every week that we get together, and every week that I hear something else that he's saying to us. So to run across this particular book was just which was great, because he gives 3, 4, 5 step plan on and a plan that works, that he has used to change the atmosphere of a city. And so I want to briefly talk about it, but I kind of want to discuss how we can do that, because it involves all of us doing the same thing. And so that's, get this book. It looks like this. So the colors when you see it.
You're going to say the name of it for the film, if you haven't said it since you started.
Thank you. It's that red and beige look. It's by Ed Silvoso, and the name of the book is Ecclesia. It's very good. It's very informative. It's kind of book that I'm listening to, and then I got to listen to it again, because he's tearing down some beliefs that we have about church that you have to hear in order to understand what God intended for the church, which is really the ecclesia, and it really never was called church. And you'll hear it or read it that church came from, when King James decided, we need to come up with an approved version of the Bible. And so King James put together a group of people to decipher it and translate it, and then he approved that version for various reasons, and they've used the word church instead of ecclesia. So it's very interesting, because it changes the whole scope of what God intended for the church as we know it, the ecclesia as he knows it. And it's just really good. It's really good. It's nothing far out there that you're like, I don't know if that's God or not. It's just right down the middle, where you're able to see biblically what God is doing with us, as well as it just being walked out in this book. So we've been talking about prayer, and we've been talking about kind of the just uniting prayer with our worship. And we've also talked about, like, when Moses said, when God came to Moses, and Moses was, you know, watching the sheep for Jethro, his father-in-law, and he's in the field, and God comes to him and says, "Hey, I want you to get the children of Israel out of Egypt. You're the guy." You were looking at me like, come on, get it out. You're the guy. And so throw down your rod, throw down your staff, and then it turns into a snake. And then he says, pick it up by the tail. And, Moses, after he finishes running, he comes back, picks it up by the tail, and it turns back into, his rod. And I've always looked at that as, because God says, now this is his rod, as in he's going to use it. And I've looked at that as God saying, now your vocation is mine. It's what you just laid down your vocation. And so one of the things that we talk about, and we're going to give you 4 things tonight to think about. Well, I'm going to give you 5. We'll see. One of the things that we have to do is be willing to use that scripture that says that whatever we do in word or deed, do all to the glory of God. So everybody has some kind of function in life. You go places, you meet people, you interact with people besides either your spouse or yourself. And even in those interactions, we have to look at ourselves as, you're going to have interactions this weekend with, probably, 500 people that will at least come through there, and maybe will say something to you. And it's up to us to appropriate the kingdom, and not to be shy about it, or not to be unaware of what we possess, or unintentional. You Emily, you're like in hospitals. It's you're touching people every day. It's you're connecting with people. If we are, you're connecting with people with what you do, walking in people's homes, and doing things. If we are intentional about this, we can begin to change the atmosphere of our city just as much as the atmosphere of my home can be changed. If Jill and I break out into a huge argument, y'all will be like, we getting out of here, okay? I don't know what's going on. Yeah, we gotta go. We'll see you Sunday. Y'all work it out. But we can change the atmosphere in a room like this, or in a church, anywhere, by doing certain things, or by saying certain things. We can change the atmosphere, and it's that simple, even for our city. If we were all doing some of the same things, that we can change the atmosphere in our cities. I don't like the atmosphere in Hamilton, Ohio. I don't like the atmosphere, but you know what? It's not good enough to not like it, and to just pray or not do some of these things that we're going to talk about, to be very intentional. I think that we spend too much time with church people, and I'm not talking about church house. I'm talking about we spend too much time with each other, and wanting to be around people that are like-minded, people that we're comfortable with, and we're never reaching the world because we're just, feeding off each other, and we got prayer requests, and we got our stuff, and we feel good about that, and we do it, and then we just leave and we go to work, and sometimes we're not effective in our places that we go to next, you know, which God's plan has always been that we affect the world. Not that the world affects us, but that we affect the world. Not that we affect the church. Not that we house all up in a building, and everything happens in there. And we get teaching, we get community, we get, our ears tickled, and, we get our dance on, and you leave out of there, and then you go about, and now you live differently, and never take what you acquired there to another place. Because now we got another church function the next night, then we got another church function, something else going on, and so we have to have something for singles, young adults, for females, for the males. We got to have something for the little kids. We got to have something for the married couples. We got to have something. Everybody's got to have something, and then we don't ever get out there and use what we gain in all these meetings. And 20 years goes by, and here we are. So I think it's possible to um, change our city by changing the atmosphere. As I was listening to Ed, the guy on Audible, talk about this, I was reminded of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I went there when it was in the 90s. Oral Roberts was still alive, and he had just recently had built the huge hospital there. Oral Roberts, if you're not familiar, big deal, big healing ministry, faith seed ministry, seed time and harvest. His whole thing is huge, and the healing revivals, tent meetings, all of that, and he ends up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, living, and church there, the whole nine, and just an awesome guy as well. His sons have taken over the ministry now that he's passed away, but he was the kind of a guy that was doing some of the things we're going to talk about, which is appropriating the kingdom in his world, and not just having church. I don't want to have church. I think we're supposed to be the church, and but there's a way to do that, and so part of that is in this book, and Ed has a couple of other books about it as well. When I went to Tulsa, you get off the plane, first thing you start realizing is everybody starts talking Christianese. Praise the Lord, bless you. What can I get you to eat? God bless you. Everybody's got that lingo going on, no matter where you're going, airport, restaurants, all over the place. Because the atmosphere was changed, and then it was sustained. And so then a culture was established. Atmosphere was changed, and then it was sustained, and then a culture was established. When that culture was established, it meant that there's just thousands of people that just talk about the Lord. You're going to Utah, to use you as an example again. In Utah, the atmosphere has changed, and a culture has been established where of Mormonism, and other things on top of that. So you can change the atmosphere of a city. We could change the atmosphere of Hamilton. We can change the atmosphere of Westchester. We can change the atmosphere of Cincinnati by doing kind of what we're talking about. In the book, Ed was talking about Guatemala. Guatemala is considered to be statistically um, one of the places with the highest number of Christian conversions going on, which I had no idea about that. But I remember I was in Guatemala, and the passion of the people for God is overwhelming. When we were there, they were having 7 services by alphabet in the on one in one day, in one Sunday. In a brick block, in a cement block building with no glass windows, just open spaces, and them little plastic white chairs that people use, that the ones that easily break.
The wedding chairs.
The wedding chairs. Yeah, they easily break. You just got to be, careful, because they'll rock on you and boom, They were having 7 services on a Sunday, and they would do it according to alphabet, A to this, and then this to that, and that to that, till they got through the whole thing. Passionate people, but broke is whatnot. There was this hill of a mountain that you would look at, and you would just see tin roofs. These TIN roofs.
Roofs.
So these tin roofs, and I'm not talking about like a roof. I'm talking about like smaller than this rug. And this was where they were living at, and it was just a junkyard of tin roofs, and because they're poor, super poor. Catholicism is also big over there too. Catholicism is demonic, I'm telling you. It will hold people back. It has held people back, and they wouldn't even come. Some of them wouldn't come out. They live in the jungles, and so they wouldn't even come out because they would be cut off if they were just coming out to get some medical supplies. Because we were Christian. And but yeah, it's like we bring this part of the kingdom, but we forget to bring the other part to the kingdom, where there's no prosperity, there's no, like you were just saying, the easiest thing, which is how to handle your money, and checkbooks and all, how to get some money and handle it. So that was in fact, that is number one, which is the what that we should be doing, which is the church should be discipling nations. Discipling nations. That's what we should be doing as the church, as the ecclesia, all of us, not just presence driven, but the church. Discipling nations. And discipling nations has to do with more than just giving them Jesus. Because as I just showed you, there's countries they got Jesus, but they don't know how to figure out the other parts. They don't know how to figure out how to live. They're not prospering. They just have Jesus. And it's not enough. When you're hungry, it's not enough when kids need medication, and you just don't just call on Jesus. We need to be the church and go out and you disciple them, which is to show them, walk alongside of them and say, this is how you do this. This is how you become this. It's discipling nations. Number two has to do with our why, which is the atonement, secured redemption for the marketplace. This isn't about just nations now. This part is about atonement, secured redemption. Redemption for people in the marketplace. The marketplace is where you all work at. Where you go in the morning and you deal with people other than the church, on a daily basis, and you be making a check, or you go somewhere and you're at a restaurant and you're ordering food. That's all of this is in the marketplace. Outside of the church, we start dealing with the marketplace, and we can affect the marketplace. You can walk into the marketplace and say, I'm praying for you today. And you begin to affect the marketplace, which has to do with number 3. Labor is worship, which is your job. Your job is as laborsome as it can be. That is worship, though, when you do it as unto the Lord, and see it as unto the Lord, and stop seeing it as I'm just getting a paycheck, or they're frustrating the heck out of me, or I don't know if I want to stay here. And you focus on all of the flesh part of things and forget that you are a kingdom person in the marketplace that can affect the marketplace and change the atmosphere, even though that just may be a little atmosphere that's just hovering around where you're at. Because if we're all doing it, we start affecting the city. I can't affect the city by myself, but if you have 1,000 people that are out touching other people, we start putting a whole lot of things to flight. So begin to look at your job the same way I was using Moses as an example. When God said, I need you to submit your staff, your rod, throw it down on the ground, and be willing to pick it up in the most dangerous of ways, a snake by its tail. We all know you shouldn't do that. If you're going to pick up a snake, you do it from the head area, not from the tail area. And yet he wants him to trust him and to do what he's asking him to do in the moment, and to lay his vocation down. And then God says, this is now my vocation. So you're doing this for me. Now what you did for the sheep, I'm going to have you do for my people. Still shepherding people, still shepherding just people now instead of sheep. But yeah, they were sheep too. So what is it, God? What is it that you do that you have to lay down and say, okay, this is your thing. My business this is yours. My nursing, this is yours. Doing facials and hair, and that is yours. Cleaning houses, that is yours. Taking care of people's kids, that is yours. The places that we work, if you're IT, this is yours, God. Now I pick it back up and it's yours, so you can show me how to appropriate this for the kingdom. Otherwise, we're just like everybody else. Just going to do a job, get a check. It's just unintentional living, and then go to church. And do whatever else you do in life. That is not what we're supposed to do. Okay? Okay? So whatever it is that you do, if you're writing checks to people or taking checks from people, do it for the glory of God, and see it as, I don't want to make it like religious sounding, like see that as your ministry to the Lord. No, I'm talking about, being willing and open to opportunities. If you're touching people, then you're believing that the kingdom is touching people. And you may say something if you have that opportunity. Don't be like, I remember a lady in Sam's Wholesale, and she would put her Christianity out there, but Sam's Wholesale didn't want to hear all her Christianity. She was the one that was supposed to be selling Sam's Wholesale memberships. Y'all know what Sam's Wholesale is, right? Y'all looking at me like y'all don't know what it is.
Sam's Club.
Sam's Club.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so at that particular moment, just because she has the opportunity, she's not supposed to be, talking about her Christianity. She's supposed to be trying to get folks to get the, but instead, she was mouthing off Christianity. So she was having problems on her job. Okay? So I'm not asking you to do that. Okay? Like you lose your mind and you're like, my pastor told me that I need to appropriate the kingdom and salvation has come to thee. I'm not asking you to do that. Okay? That would be senseless. Okay? You might not have a job. So, no, it is seeing what you do. It is seeing what you do first as I'm doing everything and giving God glory through it. But then there are certain things that we can say that nobody else has to hear in some cases. And in other cases, some people will hear them. That's what you talk about. Let's do the next thing. The next thing is that Jesus builds the church, not us. That's number 4. The first thing was discipling nations. The second thing was the atonement, secure redemption for the marketplace, believing that God loves the marketplace and that it is our goal and our job to be out in the marketplace with the kingdom. Number 3 was our labor is worship, that what we do for the glory of God, and we appropriate the kingdom. Jesus builds the church, not us. So we don't have to, we don't have to be stressed about, who's coming to the church. God is bringing who he wants to be in the church because he's the one building the church. And I plan in my heart for it always to be focused on you, the one building the church, not me. It is his responsibility and not mine. I have other responsibilities that I need to be doing, but that isn't one of them. Number 5 is elimination of systemic poverty. The elimination of systemic poverty, which are in 4 dimensions: spiritual, relational, I'm going to say it again, motivational, and material. So the elimination of systemic poverty in 4 dimensions: spiritual, relational. Don't make me laugh, okay? Motivational and material. Now this is good because, and he actually talks about this in the book, because the church many times will just go in and we band-aid a problem. So, there's nothing wrong with going and giving out clothing, giving out food. I'm all for that, okay? But that's just one level of what we can do, okay? There's other things that we can do too. It's kind of like, what's the saying? You can lead a horse, or no, that's probably not the one, but you can teach a man. Right, you can give him a fish or you can teach him to fish. So it's great that we give him fishies. It's great.
To catch his own fish.
But teach him to catch his own fish. And maybe give him a rod and a reel to do that.
Right. Yes.
And the worm. Teach him how to get it all. And not just say, here's some fish, go your way. But deal with it at 4 dimensions. The material level, yes, which I think we've got the material level down. The spiritual level we have down if they come to our church. But we need to be able to go to them as opposed to asking them always to come to us. Why the heck would sinners want to come to us? I'm serious. They don't. They're not thinking I'm going to church today unless the Holy Spirit has had an encounter with them that particular day, morning, weekend, and said, you need to go to church, and they end up in church. It ain't that can't happen, but I'm saying the church more than not needs to go too. But we like to be around each other because we're comfortable. but we don't want to do that. I'm saying that's not what we want to do. I mean, I love everybody, but we just need to change that. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So, relational.
Can I say something about that?
Yes, in a second. Relational. We want to be. We want to help relationally, spiritually, relationally, motivationally. How we motivate the world, how we motivate the marketplace is important. Teaching them leadership principles so we can get from here to here. What is it you want to say, babe?
Oh, it was in regard to what you were saying about go and make disciples and give them, instead of giving them a fish, teach them to fish. Because on Sunday, when you were delivering your message, and when we were praying, it was what I heard him saying was about he wanted to give us, he wanted us to hunger and thirst after righteousness so that we could be filled. That's the pureness, that's the pure heart that he was creating. And he showed me John 6:26, when they said, Rabbi, when did you get here? And Jesus replied, I tell you the truth, you want to be with me because I fed you. Not because this was after the loaves and the fishes were multiplying. He said, they came to see him and he said, you guys are here to eat, but not because you understood the miraculous signs. He said, but don't be so concerned about perishable things like food. Spend your energy seeking the eternal life that the Son of Man can give you, for God the Father has given me the seal of his approval. And then he goes on to say, we want to perform God's work, so what should we do? That's what they said. And he said, this is the only work God wants from you. Believe in the one he has sent. And then he goes on to talk about how he is the true bread of God, is the one who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. I am the bread of life, and whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty, but you haven't believed in me, even though you have seen me. So he talks about how, what they see, them believing on not what they see and what they, the bread, what he gave them, but in what he can continually give them, the life and the lifestyle of learning, and being discipled and how to grow and have everything they need. That's all I wanted to say.
That's good. That's very good. Huh?
Break it down.
That's what she does.
The bread.
So, I think there's four things that we can use with this. This is different four, okay? A different four things that we can be done, that we can do, that need to be done in appropriating. One we're going to deal with is peace. So I have the four things are blessing, and I'm going to give you a little bit under each one. Blessing, fellowship, minister, and proclaim. We bless, fellowship, minister, and proclaim. It has to be done in this order. This is based on Luke chapter 10. Here's where I say that we begin to look at who we are, what we possess, and that we should not just be around each other all the days of our lives and not be around others that don't know Christ. Time out for being, like Sunday we were talking about being set apart, sanctified. We were talking about the importance of it. This is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about being able to take a city, and how do we do that? How do we change the atmosphere of our city? In leadership, I talk about that before you ask someone to do something for you, you touch a heart before you touch a hand. You touch a heart before you touch a hand. And this same concept Ed uses in the book. He just uses it in a different way. So the first thing is to bless, don't blast. So you walk up into someone's home, and I would love it if you do. Go to somebody else's house. Not on Tuesday night. Go to somebody else's house and bless their house. Being intentional. Okay? So, and just be and say when you walk in, peace to this house. You have that authority. It's not like you don't. You have that authority. You carry the kingdom, the authority of the kingdom with you. And he told the disciples, when you go, and you say peace to wherever it is that you go. And when you say it, when you say it, you say it. You give them peace. And you get it off of you and onto them. It's an intentional impartation. Not like I walk into the house and just peace to this house. Peace to this house. No, be very intentional. You're not coming to my house talking about peace to this house. That's easy. You go into people that you may should associate with that don't go to church. And they need Christ. And instead of you thinking that you're just going to walk up in there or, and just going to shove Jesus down their throat, these are steps, 4 steps, right? 4 steps to take to give them Jesus without shoving Jesus down their throat. That will help to change the atmosphere in our city by touching hands first. The first thing is to go into a house and bless the house. Bless the house. Peace to this house.
In this house. That's good.
I was in a house, my daughter was getting her hair done, and the lady said, I need you to come back to my house and bless it. Because there's things going on in my house that shouldn't be going on, and I need you to come back and bless it. And I said, peace. There's peace in this house. Peace to this house. Right? Mm-hmm. Intentional. Peace. Impartation. Imparting spirit and life when we do it. Now, not crazy, like, peace to this house. And you all, Christians can be silly, and I want you to use sense, okay? Don't be weird. I just need to come in your house, and I need to impart peace. Let me come in, and I'll impart some peace. Don't be weird. Just there are houses that you go over with people that don't go to church. You have associations with people that don't know, that don't have any clue. And if you don't, you need to find some people, right? We need to find some more people just besides church people. We already know God. We already know who he is, and we love him. But there's a bunch of people that don't. So the first thing is when that happens, you go in and bless, because this is like this is kind of like a little subtitle for why we want to appropriate peace. Number one is we may have been at war with the lost, so we need to speak peace. Many times we don't like lost people. We don't like lost people. You were talking about your son, not that he's lost, but he's kind of sideways right now. And sometimes we don't like to be dealing with people that are sideways. We're like, I don't want to be dealing with a sideways person. I don't want to be dealing. You got people around you, got people on your block. You got people in houses that live right next to you, and you're like, they need some help. We say things, and we end up cursing people that are lost, that need Christ. We end up saying the wrong stuff because we're aggravated over the stuff that they're doing, we're like, God knows, I pray that they don't come close to my daughters. God, I pray that they don't come close to my kids. God, I pray that they don't come, that they would at least cut their, we say certain things out of our mouth, and so then we don't have, we can't win people that we're offended by.
That's good.
So we have to change that thought process toward our neighbors. You might have a neighbor that's telling you, don't park by my mailbox. Tell your people, don't park by my mailbox. Okay, but we're not gonna curse you or cuss you because you don't want us parking by your mailbox, right? Because you can't win anybody that you're offended by. So we may have been at war with the lost, so we have to speak peace even with ourselves toward them. Number 2 is that the blessing the lost will keep us from cursing them. It's easy to curse folks,
Is this one go into fellowship?
This is still under the blessing,
Okay.
and saying peace. I got 3 things, which is the first one was that we may have been at war with the lost, so we need to speak peace. 2 is that blessing the lost will keep us from cursing them. They may not even keep their house up. Like property value goes down because of the way that they treat their property. That's how it works. So you could be aggravated over that. I wish they take care of their property. They ain't ever gonna be nothing. You just cursed them. We talk about the things that come out of our mouth, the thoughts that we have towards people. We have to change that. The third one about under blessing is when we speak peace, we neutralize the demons on assignment to block the glorious light of the gospel. When we speak peace, we neutralize the demons on assignment in their lives that are trying to block the light of the glorious gospel. The Bible talks about that they have a veil. They have this veil, and unless that veil is torn, so that the light of the gospel they're not going to get saved, right? So the enemy is constantly trying to keep people in the dark, and when you speak peace to them, it's like that thing comes off, so that they understand and see the light of the glorious gospel, which is freedom and so many other things. So we're speaking peace and unveiling them. Your friend that just fell and had a concussion, just calling him up and saying, hey man, I know you got hurt today. I just want to speak peace and life to you. You just unveiled.
He was Mormon.
So?
I asked
Right?
him to come to church.
That's the thing. We don't ask people to come to church first. First, we bless them. We speak peace to them first. We do this next thing, which is fellowship, which is eating and drinking with them. Sit down and have some supper with them. Take them out, or they take you out. Many times people will invite you out and you be like, I'm too Christian to go out and hang with you because you do crazy stuff. So we can't hang together because of the places you want to go. Therefore, I can't do that. How can you win somebody and you can't even eat with them?
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, this isn't like edgy stuff. We're talking about eating food. They can drink if they want to, but you don't have to. Let them go ahead and drink, do what they do. You don't have to.
You do not have to indulge in their fault and their negative activities.
That's right. Here's the thing, though. when we do eat with someone, we're giving them unconditional acceptance,
Right.
and because they know something's different, even if it's a little something different about you, you know. So but now you're saying, you know what? I can eat with you, because I give you unconditional acceptance. Also, we're saying that uh, uh, that they are valuable. We're affirming their value. It doesn't have to be brought up in a discussion and given points, but it's just the fact that you're there having a meal, and you don't look at them crazy when they order some wine, and or you don't act like, oh, no, I go to church, I wear white, I don't do that. You know, none of that. You know, it's people think that the church is rejecting, because most of us been rejected as it is anyway, in some form or fashion at one point in our lives by the church. So if you've been rejected and you are a Christian, there's folks out there that just think flat out that the church is just rejecting them because they doing all kind of nasty stuff. So they just automatically think the church don't love them. People in the church aren't going to accept them. They don't expect it. They don't expect it. So for you to come along and say, you know what? Let's go eat some lunch together.
Tyler made a good point. She said the church is just as nasty.
And then you turn your face up.
It's hateful.
The church may be nasty, and the folk and the world knows it, but the church still is looked at as the church representing Christ. And folks that are not representing Christ think that the church is, I can't do none of this stuff. I can't be around you,
Gives Christ the back.
So to say I can sit down and have lunch with you at the lunch table, or to sit with you or to say let's go out and have lunch, or whatever that would be. Eating is a very intimate thing to do with somebody, as far as I'm concerned. So, and the Bible even talks about Jesus would have supper, because that was very much a time where you look in people's eyes. You're having church then, right then, when you're sitting there at the table having supper with each other, and you're able to communicate valuable things. That's what Jesus did at the table. He would communicate all kinds of valuable things to those that were around him at that time. So eating and drinking with folks, and I'm not talking about drinking, not talking about lowering your standards. I'm just saying don't throw flags up talking about your standards. Don't wear the t-shirt. Go out there and love people and accept people unconditionally. Unconditionally. The third one, the first one was bless people. Then I had those three under there. Now I've moved on to fellowship, right? So the third one is to minister. Now this happens when we've done the other, which is why we have to do this in this order, according to Luke chapter 10. So as we minister, we're talking about praying for their felt needs, F-E-L-T. Whatever their needs are, they will begin to share those when they feel they can trust you. Once they feel that they can trust us, they will share what their needs are. Once they feel they can trust us. So when they share what their needs are, hey, would you pray for my marriage? Hey, would you pray for my child? I got this situation going on. What do you think about it? That's important. You have an inroad. Not to just throw the gospel up, but just the fact that they're asking, the inquiry is important, because now it says they're trusting. They're trusting. So now you're able to do just that. Pray. You're able to pray. You make some declaration. Because once trust is established, they will reveal their needs. You don't have to say, you know, what I need to pray for you for. You know, you don't have to show how spiritual and holy and invite them to places and give them, and you know, if I come to here with you, then you got to come to church with me. We're not making deals. That's not what we're trying to do. We will change the atmosphere of our city by touching people one at a time. All of us doing these things, though. All of us doing these things. All of us doing these things in various ways with the same concept, though. Following the same plan. Okay, so praying for their needs. The last one is the fact that we will be able to proclaim the kingdom. The kingdom of God has come to them. We're able to proclaim that. Proclaim is the word, proclaim. So you're able to proclaim the kingdom. You're able to talk about all the stuff, like you said, come to church with me. That's the last thing. Not the first thing. That's the last thing. After they have your trust, then talk about, and they talk about their needs, they will actually come to you. Hey, where do you go to church at? Or tell me more about your God or something. It's not that you have to be just throwing it all up on them. Right? Because you want to get out of the situation and environment and put them in your environment. That's not what we're trying to do. Okay? And so sometimes we've been taught that we just need to go straight for the heart, get somebody saved. Because we don't know when Christ is coming. So get them saved. Because Christ could come and you had the opportunity and you missed it. Okay, maybe so. But this thing right here works. It has worked over and over again from the time of Christ until now. It has worked and proven as a system to work in changing the atmosphere of a city and the culture. You don't like your city, you start by blessing the people that are in your city. Instead of cursing them, instead of being offended at them, begin to love them. Begin to ask God, give me love for the people in my city. Because right now I'm offended by them. I don't like the stuff that they're saying or the stuff that they're doing. And so I'm offended by it. Therefore, I'm asking you to change my heart concerning all of that so that I love them instead. If you feeling nonchalant, I remember a story, Amberly, because I was thinking about the hospital thing, of a guy who he heard that somebody he somehow the story goes that somebody had an accident and they were in a pretty bad way in the hospital, and he ends up at the hospital, kind of just being led, and the guy is in a what they call them gurney beds or whatever thing, just in the hallway because it's too packed, and he goes and he touches the guy. The guy has died on the bed. He goes, touches him, he comes back to life. He's still on the bed though, and he's not quite aware of what went on, but later on somebody says that told him that he came back to life, and he says, well, who touched me? He says, I don't know, but this particular guy. And I say all that in a very disconnected way, but you understand. I say all that because you never know who you're touching by just doing the little things that we're talking about, like even right here. And so you don't think it has to be a huge event in order to, and that we have to get everybody rallied around. It can start with this group right here that just saying to themselves, you know what? When I go out, I'm going to start looking at myself as doing more than just working a job. Going out, and when I go to the cleaners, when I go to a restaurant, when I connect with somebody, I look at myself as more than just connecting, but actually appropriating the kingdom in this particular order, blessing them, accepting them, right? Praying for them, and then proclaiming who Christ is. Amen. Okay, so you guys give me your thoughts about this.